Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Band Batch, talking about episodes 306 and 307 of the Bad Batch. Did I say Band Batch the first time? I don't know.
Mhm.
Justin is doing some tech thing for a show at the moment, and James had some sort of his car died on the 405 or something. I don't know what happened
Yeah,
exactly, but something happened to his car. So he's in a little bit of a situation right now. So it will just be Christina and me for the time being. But Justin did send a lot of examples for us to play, and it will be lots of synthy fun. So, yeah, thank you to those who are here. And hey, Gary. Hello, folks, and thanks for doing this. As always, two more stunning episodes. Looking forward to everyone's thoughts. I can see why they paired these episodes. Yeah, I'm curious what everyone thinks. I had a hard time like following the plot of these episodes, or like,
I did too.
oh, you did too. Okay. Hi, Jeannie. Hey, Ender. Yeah, but there were lots of themes, or I guess not a lot of themes, but there's one persistent theme that I'm just going to jump right into because it's an example that it would have been probably most of our primary examples, and Justin went ahead and recorded it on a using a synth, so it will sound kind of close to what it sounds like on screen. But we have the return of something that actually showed up in a previous season of The Bad Batch. K-pop times. Hey, good to see you. Hey, Matthew. Yay. Okay. Then I'm going to share Justin's conspiracy theory. I told him that I would, and that I would let the people decide his fate. So you all can say what you think of it. All right. So here's example number one from Justin, and just chime in if you know where it occurs or what you think it corresponds to. Yay.
Nice.
Yeah. I really appreciate Justin like sending us like taking the time to actually record stuff and send it. He sent the file names are pretty funny. It's like the episode number, the timestamp, and then he gives it like a funny title, the cue or the little snippet. You recognize this, Christina?
I do. It is. It's the classic.
It's all over the place.
I don't know. Yeah, it's all over the place. And it gives the Bad Batch its, or at least gives these episodes and the episode that it's in that kind of anxious horror film thriller feel. Uh,
It sounds really
and
thriller to me. Or sorry,
yeah,
like thriller
and
heist type of
and
thing.
yeah, and this whole episode, like we know bad people are coming for the Bad Batch, and they are woefully unaware. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Here's a here's a bonus question. That's Clone X theme. Wait, yeah, that's Clone X theme. It was associated with them, yes. And then these plots were complex. It would have been worse if they'd broken them up into separate weeks, though. Oh, totally agree, Gary. It was it was
mhm,
good that they
mhm.
paired them for sure. So can anyone guess or identify when that little snippet of music first appeared in the Bad Batch? Because it was last season. Perhaps which episode?
It was in season two, you say?
I'm actually looking up that episode right now to see if Clone X Troopers were actually in it. Well,
I
here's
could
an
see it in the Truth and Consequences episode. I could
mm-hmm.
imagine it.
Indeed, it was in the Truth and Consequences episode, and the time the first time it happened, which was episode 8, season 2, but the first time it happened was Jeannie, you just got it. Yeah. The episode with Chuchi. It showed up in episode 7, the clone conspiracy. Yep. Yep.
Ah,
And then of course Truth and Consequences was the one right after that. So it showed up in both. I can't name it the episode, but is it the one with Bale? Yep, it's the one with Chuchi and Bale and conspiracy stuff.
mhm.
And at the time, we had named it the clone conspiracy thumping theme, which I will remind. Sorry, it's like screenshot of a screenshot here, so it's oops. So it's gonna be kind of grainy. But basically. It's like oh, there's stuff in my keys. Oh no. Okay. I must have been playing piano with like food on my hands. That's kind of gross. Okay. Yeah, I know. It's pretty gross. It's not great. Yeah,
Let's
so
take care of that.
yeah. You may notice that I called it Clone Conspiracy 2. So now I'm curious what I called Clone Conspiracy 1. Let me just recap. Oh my God. That's what it was. That's Christina, that's what I was transcribing just before we got on the call. I was like, this is from somewhere, but I can't find it where it is in my notes. Oh my gosh, that's pretty funny. Okay, let's continue
cool.
with Justin's examples, and then I'll share what that one was. Oh, I feel very silly. That's okay. It's good. And then I'll tell you the conspiracy after this next one. Oh, Justin's conspiracy theory, to be clear. Okay. Here we go. Yep. Very similar. Anyone know when that particular thing occurs? Totally not crosshair. Okay, I did skip one, I think. Nope. No, I didn't. Okay. Man, he got a really good drum sound out of that. I was actually thinking that James would do some of those drum ones, but it also makes sense that Justin would because there was so much of a synth drum blend, with like a very
They didn't
wet
feel very
sound.
acoustic. Actually, this episode had a lot of really cool moments where they had an acoustic instrument and then all of a sudden it becomes a synth. Uh,
Oh, like when?
I- I- um, while there are some moments where like the strings are kind of working on something and doing, and then all of a sudden the line is just completely taken over by definitely a synth, and not like a string synth, but like an electronic sounding synth. And there's some really nice acoustic piano as
There is
well,
nice
doing
acoustic piano.
percussive things like what Justin is demonstrating. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite acoustic piano moment?
There, yes. My notes became really convoluted because I tried to draw a picture of the waterfall and then I had to write on top of it. Um, and I think 1150 of episode 7 is Extraction. I really
Okay.
enjoyed that acoustic piano bit. Let me see if that's an accurate
11:50.
timestamp.
Okay. Let me just check that out really quick. 1150 at 307. Oh, did you think that providing the bass notes?
I hear actual acoustic piano in that, and from my
Oh,
headphones.
oh, in conjunction with the synth.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
Which might, is that the part
Yeah,
that
see?
Justin's doing an example of right now?
No, no, that's coming.
No, it's
That's
not.
coming later.
I didn't think so, but
Yeah, but it's
they're
like
so
all the same thing.
similar.
Well, that's the thing, because like it is very synthy. If you listen, if you, I know we can't play it on stream, but if you listen back to Hey, the Masked Jedi, if you go back to about 1150 of episode 307, you will hear that theme again, like whatever, or no, whatever, however it goes. But then you also hear with the synth. There's clearly a synth there, but are you saying you're hearing like a really low piano note as well?
Yeah, and
I think I am too.
I feel like my notes are just not very great. If we keep listening to that section, there'll be some more um, piano in it. But maybe we'll look at that section a little later,
Hmm.
um, a little more in depth.
So the
But we
first
haven't
example.
figured out where Justin's
Hmm. Hmm. Okay,
thing is yet.
Justin's first example, well, first of all, he labeled all of these totally not crosshair. So I think that,
Oh.
so totally not crosshair arrives on planet is what he calls this one. It's from 1426 of episode 6. So I think he's insinuating that he thinks crosshair is the person, the assassin clone. I don't think so, but that's what Justin thinks.
He, um,
Unless I'm misreading sarcasm. Okay, wait,
I
let
was
me
gonna
just.
say, like that, is that one something that you like read the words? Because I could hear that being like confusing.
Well, no, he said something, and I interpreted it as sarcasm. Let me just screenshot his texts.
Perfect.
So, am I interpreting that correctly? That means he does think that, right? Because he's saying it's he's saying it's not, which means he thinks it is, right?
Mm. So
Clearly, my
I like
conspiracy
what he
theory
said,
is that the assassin
but
clone is totally not Crosshair.
in no way, none, no similarities, not even speech pattern. Because the clones, the shadow clones do, I like that name for them, shadow clones, do have a lot of similarities with Crosshair and speech pattern and everything. Uh, but it occurred to me that maybe Crosshair was kind of like their prototype or something. Like they were like, oh,
Oh,
Crosshair was really successful. He does everything we ask it. You know, he's an ideal clone in some ways. Totally not Crosshair.
thank you. I'm
Um,
glad I did the sarcasm right. I think.
you did.
Um, no, you're right. I mean, Christina, that's actually a pretty good point because like these clones are all obviously they're all individual people, but they all are also they've also been made and designed and messed with to try to reach outcomes that the empire wants. So I could see that.
Hmm.
I think the shadow clones are what Crosshair could have become if he went down that direction. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I
Probably if it
agree.
weren't for Omega and him
Yeah.
learning how to love.
Oh, totally.
We need the Force theme to play real quick. Like if it were an audiobook, that's what
Oh
would happen.
yeah. So in Legends, there were clones made very quickly called Sparti clones. The Sparti cylinders that made them were found on Mount Tantus. I totally forgot about this. It's been a few years since I've read Heir to the Empire
The
trilogy.
Sparty
Do you remember them, Christina?
Sparty clones were really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have like a really short development period,
Yeah.
or like childhood teen years, to the extent that like it's unwise to have clones grow that quickly.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember?
and so then they have problems.
And did Mark Thompson say it like Spa-arty, or did I just randomly say that? Is it?
Spa-arty,
I feel like I
Spa-arty.
remember that from the
Um,
audiobooks.
I think he would
Spa-arty.
have said it that
Spa-arty.
way.
Yeah.
Spa-arty. With a
I don't know.
second glottal on the second A.
Mm-hmm.
Spa-arty.
Spa-arty. K-pop Time says, yeah, I think a theory going round is that the shadow clone who survived is a crosshair clone. Oh,
Hmm.
I have no
I can
idea
see
how it's
that.
pronounced.
Oh, right, they were cloning Crosshair. Yes, I could get behind that conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I could get behind that too. Because also, like, really good marksmen, is that what they're called? Like
Mm.
to be like a
Um,
sniper and stuff. Because I feel like we saw them,
like say
like the assassin,
sharpshooter.
do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good point, everyone. Um, I sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't often like check in with a lot of like theories while I'm in the middle of something, just because I get I feel the need sometimes to see what I would take from an episode on my own without having ideas planted into my head, because I know that sometimes when an idea is planted into my head, then it just changes my framing and outlook. And so, yeah, maybe I could have been a little more aware though. Okay. So, I'll play another example from Justin from 306. It's just repeating. Maybe you can guess where this takes place or the title that Justin gave it. K-pop Time says, "Yeah, I'm the same. I tend to get all my theories from Star Wars Explained." Yeah, the single episode, the single like YouTube video that I watched after these episodes was a Star Wars Explained one. That's it. Um, okay. Matthew says, Crosshair fights the Shadow Clone in the waterfall, and Hauser, who at the beginning of the episode distrusted, saves him. Hauser has seen that Crosshair has changed and has forgiven his sins. I'm trying to remember. Wasn't that in the second episode? Or was that in 306? They're kind of running together. I think that was in episode 307.
The waterfall was in episode 307.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so um, no, this example is from 306. Any guesses, Christina? I don't think I would have gotten it unless I saw the answer because
I
it's kind of
have kind of a guess,
okay.
but I feel like it sounds like another one of Justin's examples, and so I'm just wondering if I'm just going back kind of the same. But it reminds me of kind of in the 14th minute of the episode.
You're close. It's a little bit after.
Yeah.
I'll also say that right, Gary. The waterfall was at the end of 307,
Hmm.
but the example that you know what, Justin's example is actually it's interesting. Let's play. I'm going to play it again because it does and doesn't sound like it. It does sound like that, but imagine the synth being much more muted in the mix, so you don't actually hear it that prominently. It's more in the background of.
Mm.
Okay. And then all of that's pretty muted. Um, so that happens at the end of 306, or no, actually not quite the end, but like at 1716, and it's when the they're on Teth, or the assassin, I guess, is on Teth. The clone assassin is like climbing the mountain where Rex's base camp is and planting remote controlled explosives on things.
I like that you played your. And was that a violin or viola? I wasn't.
Violin.
I was looking elsewhere. Okay. I enjoyed that you played your violin there because Actually, if you go a whole minute before that, that violin drone is already going on when Crosshair is when they're kind of like questioning Crosshair's loyalty and and talking about the shadow clones. So that's interesting that it started nice and early. Yes, yes.
Yeah. And it's not exactly the same note necessarily, but there is like a sustained string pad happening in the background. Yes, Jeannie. That was it. It's good. And he calls that not totally not Crosshair, sneaky sneak. Okay.
He's so funny.
I know. That's it for 306. Let me look at my note. That's it for Justin for 306. Um, what do you think? What else do you think about? What do you think about that episode? Like, I was happy to see Chuchi again. I don't know. She was kind of fun to have in an episode.
I'm so happy to see Chuchi. Also, I kind of thought she had died. I
Ah,
thought she had been assassinated successfully in season two.
mm,
Maybe I assumed that too much, but I thought she was dead, so it was very exciting that she's not.
mm.
Um, I could be wrong, obviously. And
And it's cool to see like Chuchi and Senator Singh, I guess, are now working across the aisle or whatever. Um, they were opposed in the Clone Wars, but now they have a shared goal. I noticed a Dias Irae at 540.
ooh,
I noticed a bunch of them throughout these episodes. And it was like,
I guess that makes sense
yeah,
because of the pitch content, and we have that ba 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 kind of set going a lot of the time.
yeah,
Do we?
it was like, it was like, it was like really obvious to me. It could have been a coincidence, but I don't think so. I think the Kiners did that on
Nice.
purpose. Oh, oh, interesting, Matthew. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out right now. So I saw Screen Crush point
Yeah.
out something in episode 820, in episode 6 at 821. They took a little piece from from a Star Wars movie. Let's see. Let's see if my notes say anything. 821. Did they say which movie?
Ah,
I'm not sure I hear it, unless it's something really like it's just like a chord pad or something. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's all there it is. Oh wait.
Jeannie from Tahini says Return of the Jedi Flourish.
Um. Oh, the Return of the Jedi flourish. Huh. Wait. 821.
Oh, sorry.
Do you hear it, Christina?
Um, maybe?
Oh, like yeah, it sounds familiar. Like Jabba's palace. Or no, like interesting. I wonder if I wonder if that was on purpose. Was that on purpose, do you think? Do you think that was on purpose? I thought it was from a different spot.
I I hear it a little after 1821 if it's that part. We're talking about that kind of brass build that's somewhat melodic. That feel is that what we're talking about? The thing.
Matthew said at 821.
Yeah, I hear it at maybe more like 8 30 or in between 30 and 40. But at 8:21, it's episode 6.
This is kind of wild. Let me see if the Kiners have tweeted anything about it.
I hear the double bass kind of like, duh.
Mm-hmm.
Very quiet under the conversation.
Okay, we're going to table this. I'm going to look into it, and I'm going to see if I can find it. Because I want
That
to
part right after, I mean,
directly
it does
compare
have
it.
that classic Star Wars feel with the kind of like fourthy brass
Right, this thing,
melody.
it sounds Star Wars-y. Oh, and perhaps a bit later. Mm-hmm.
I could
Okay,
definitely see that being from a movie.
Noble Clone. I don't hear it after that. Not immediately. Interesting.
Yeah, that kind of like swell is
Maybe.
pretty classic Star
I
Wars.
I would I'm going to check out that Screen Crush video. If you can put a link to it. Screen Crush noticed it because they used it on repeat in a video game, and so the guy had heard it over and over again in the game. That that checks out. This happens every time.
Yeah,
Yep, that checks out. And I trust people who play video games. Like
yeah,
it comes
Ryan
up on the
Airy.
podcast, so it comes up on the podcast so all the time, not all the time, but sometimes where I people who listen to video games or who play video games with this music on, the repetition makes it things get wired in a really specific way. So yeah, sometimes when people notice a sound, I'm like, did you play? Was this in a game? Okay, that's really cool. That's really cool, Matthew. Okay, like you saying the game thing makes me it validates it more for me.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
That's
And Jeannie, did you play a video game with that in it? Is that how you recognized it too? What's funny is like
yeah.
after Rise of Skywalker, the next movie that I'm doing on the main podcast is Return of the Jedi. So me a year from now will probably really be able to tell what that is. But right now, I haven't done my deep, like fine listening through every single minute yet. That's funny. Okay. Other than Dia Siri, what are some other notes I have from this episode? They are, oh, the silence when they entered the safe house at the beginning of the episode and they had that like conversation at the table with Chuchi and Senator Singh. I really liked how no music it was. Again, like a good, like sonic negative space there. And it really made the conversation feel more immediate to me. I liked that.
Totally.
No, I just watched Return of the Jedi on repeat for years. Same. We heard the Noble Clone theme a few times, which is and it was first associated with Hauser, actually, which makes sense. And we also have Hauser. It sounded familiar, but then I also saw Screen Crush and I felt like it's crazy. Nice. Transcription of Noble Clone, in case people want to see that. And then lots of parallel fourths types of things, like whatever, stuff like that, which is like both lines are moving in parallel, like at the same, by the same distance, each step, each note or whatever. Energy
Which is a
crossbow
type
sound.
of counterpoint.
Yes.
Because we were talking about counterpoint last week, so that's an
Mm-hmm.
example of parallel motion counterpoint, that they
Yes.
move again, the point and the point, they move together, but in the same direction.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Thank you for connecting the dot there. Omega has a new energy crossbow, and it sounds pretty cool.
Yes.
Feel free, chat, while we just finished talking about episode 306, throw in other stuff you remember from that episode. Okay, Omega explains that they were after her M count, but the Fat Batch don't know what that is yet. Cool ship landing sounds. Purpley planet, Teth, very pretty. We did hear the Crosshair theme again, of course. And then we also hear the Clone Facility 2 theme. Also, could be called what's the bad guys? Hemlock. Also associated with Hemlock. Yeah. And then Crosshair, when Hauser and Crosshair are kind of, having it out a little bit, Hauser's like, if the project's so secretive, how do you know about it? Crosshair says later on, being defective is in my nature. Being defective is in my nature. Did he say defected or defective?
Defective.
That's what I thought. Okay. And I think that's a good double meaning there.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is a defective clone and he defected from the troops or whatever.
It also shows some like loyalty because what that's kind of like the motto of the Bad Batch is kind of like being defective is in our nature, like as opposed to the regs.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Well, like they take pride in being like the screwed up batch.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. The bad batch. Yeah.
But then also defect as the like to leave, to desert and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Matthew, that's good. That's a good point. The only problem with the energy crossbow is it really lights up and gives the group away when they're trying to hide from the Shadow Trooper. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Okay. Let's see. Oh, you know what we heard again? At around 1950, it's come up like I think literally every week. The heartbeat drums again. We had the kind of thing happen again. Have to have it in every episode. Gary24 says, someone is going to say midichlorians in this. You heard it here first. Next week, maybe. And also in that alley with, I don't know, was it an alley? I don't know what to call it. Where the assassin is darting around and stuff, is when we hear this theme that I thought I was transcribing anew. It's not a theme necessarily. So basically the violins are doing like a cycle of it's basically just 4 notes. D, E flat, A, B flat, but then just jumping different octaves. Which I really like.
Another way to look at that theme is just that it's the 1-5-1. So it's actually not even about the fact that there's 2 notes on each one. It's more like an ornament on just like ba ba ba, which is the
that's
kind
actually
of
a better way to look at
from
it.
from a series standpoint, I guess you would just say like 1-5-1.
Yeah, from a certain theory. It's weird how there's so many like schools of thought with theory. What is it? There's some kind of theory that actually specifically says you have to include, like, does include the ornaments. Yeah. But I kind of agree that it's easier to conceptualize it as just, and then each of them has a half note neighboring tone. Right. Oh, sorry. first time we hear that one is also in the Clone Conspiracy episode. And the old transcription, it was formerly called Intrigue. Not formally, but I guess it was different notes that time. Okay, it's not the exact same thing, but I feel like it's similar enough that I feel like it's related. I might be wrong, but
I mean, it's definitely the same tonal language of using the feeling of just moving between halves, doing steps,
yeah.
and which sounds anticlimactic, but steps are really powerful, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And the kind of legato of it and there's like a lilt to it. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's good.
Yeah. Speaking, oh, keep going. You were about to
No,
talk about something.
nope. Go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of steps, my favorite part was overall the waterfall scene, but I decided that the waterfall scene kind of started at 11:45.
Are you in episode
I
307
was
now?
like, oh, I moved on to episode 7.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
okay.
I very
I just have
quickly keep trying to do that.
no, that's okay. We will get there in like 1 minute. I just have 2 more things in episode 306. And one of them is my favorite piano moment was at about 21:59. There's like a low, ominous piano plunk. And then Crosshair's like, we should leave. And I like that because, first of all, the piano has such a big range, and I am always delighted when an acoustic piano is used in an effective way. And I think it was also effectively used, actually, in Ahsoka for Balin's theme. That was also good. And here is just a very, very simple application, very simple way to use that instrument, which, does have really pretty high notes. You can do really twinkly stuff, but then you can also just do like, and it sounds like danger. So, yeah. That's about, someone else is named Nemec in Star Wars, we found out.
Hmm.
Yep. Spelled Nemec. Okay, episode 307. We begin on Teth, the ruins of the former monastery. And we hear,
I liked the opening sequence
oh yeah, what did
of
you like about it?
the opening. It was just very, the sort of, there was that dark, hollow, reverberant sound that I feel like James would know what instrument that might have been trying to evoke, or maybe Justin would, and maybe you will also. But the
Like a synthy sound
I
or?
feel like actually oh, that's not where I want. Like maybe like yeah, like 40 seconds in, there's this nice
Oh, you
kind
mean
of
the,
hmm with super continuous pitch. Like it almost reminds me of a didgeridoo.
it's so layered into other things because there's like a few layers happening there, right?
Hmm.
You're talking about like the one that's kind of like a wind instrument? Or are you talking about the
Yeah,
lower pitched one?
like it's very low,
Okay.
definitely low. So like whatever I was singing, but like probably lower, like lower than I can sing.
But an octave lower.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It goes like, I can't sing. Okay, I can't sing it. It's too low. Um, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I do know what you're talking about. Um, let me play an example from Justin. This might be a good time for that.
Yeah.
I guess that's it. Okay. Okay. Well, that happens after what you're talking. I know what you're talking about. I don't know what instrument that is, though. I mean, I would assume it's just more synths,
Hmm.
but what about the synths? There's many layers of synths, and then there's the kind of a whistling, there's like a windy sound too. Or, oh, and there's like a sustained choir. Am I hearing a choir? I feel like I couldn't tell because it maybe sounded like a digital choir. It might just be me.
I think it. I mean, whenever are you talking about those the really?
Yeah. It's like starts at one.
Hmm. I could see that being a choir.
It's like,
In particular, I've noticed that the choirs that they use in the Bad Batch scores, sometimes they don't sound like choir at first, and then as the qualities of the synth change, you're like, oh, okay, that was a choir, not like an attempt at a wind instrument.
oh, is it because the
Um,
blend obscures maybe until, is because it's
yeah,
hard to hear it
and
separately?
also like whenever they play things out of the normal singing range, you don't really get normal vowels. Like that's kind of like a synth created thing sometimes is like you can sing oh, but then when you go way higher, like ah, like already I'm making more of an sound.
Mm-hmm.
But if I try to make like a lot of synths use that kind of like ah sound like ear like
Mm-hmm.
ee. And but then if you go even higher, you don't really have a lot of vowel control at that point. So
That's a really good point. That is a really, yeah, that's a really, yeah, because sometimes the choir sounds like a little uncanny and you're like, theoretically, why can't I do an ooh up really, really high? But you're right, the
yeah,
vowel
because
like does change. Yeah. Ooh, like, yeah, it sounds a little too like unrealistic. Here, I don't think it sounds,
absolutely.
here there's like, I don't think it's too out of range here.
No,
No, there's a
that's
little bit.
reasonable.
It's hard because I hear a high one, but it's like mixed very, I mostly hear, ah.
Weird.
But it does sound like a
I
synthesized choir
I
to
like
me.
that you hear that pitch, and I very much hear the higher pitch.
It
I
also could
bet that
be my studio headphones sound
also I
make
bet
things
it's
sound
an
so different. Hmm?
like I think our brains trick us whenever the relationship between notes falls really strongly on the harmonic spectrum. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably really focusing on the harmonic of the fundamental that you're hearing.
Probably.
Um, I've actually heard notes differently with friends where like no no that's absolutely for sure definitely an F sharp and like no 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 it's absolutely for sure definitely a D, and
Mm-hmm.
it's because they're similar to each other from a physics standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah. So, okay, this is not Star Wars related, but it's related to what you just said, which is I'm currently writing a piece for bassoon duo, and I'm in it. I'm using, I've been familiarizing myself with a bunch of bassoon multiphonics, and a multiphonic is, yeah, like, how do I describe a multiphonic? A multiphonic is like a tone that contains multiple pitches, multiple sounds. There should be a
I can
I'm
try to
sure that,
make one. There's one that I like to make just that I'm like it's kind of like overtone singing is I guess like the only kind of multiphonic that I can do as a human, so that'd be like
yeah.
so I'm singing E, I'm singing E and E.
I do this with my electric toothbrush. Um, A multiphonic is an extended technique on a monophonic musical instrument. And a monophonic, Justin was explaining monophonic instruments last week. A monophonic instrument is one that produces just one note at a time. So like an old school analog synths, not just old school, but like an analog synth, a monophonic analog synth, if you're a pianist and you play a monophonic synth for the first time, you will be surprised that you can't play like a chord. You can't go like, because you can only play one note at a time. So you can't even like overlap. You can only one. That's already too much overlap. A polyphonic synth is one where you can do chords. So a monophonic instrument like a bassoon, if you blow it in a certain way, it can produce multiple notes at a time. Let me play you some examples of multiphonics. Because my brain's been living in this space for a really long time. It's going to sound not what you expect a bassoon to sound like, probably. Here's another. I'm going to play one of my favorites. See how many notes? Here's another one. Right? It's like there's so much complexity. Like you can just find so many different, you can pick out so many different notes in a big spectrum in that. So to make my life easier in writing a piece that incorporates multiphonics, I was trying to transcribe my favorite multiphonics into like notation showing basically the pitches that I was hearing. And I found that the pitches I was hearing in the multiphonics would change from day to day. So then like the next day I would go look up that multiphonic and look up my transcription, and I would actually hear a different note than the ones I, was inputting. So the fact that we're picking up on different, I don't know, ghost tones, overtones, stuff like that is very plausible.
Yeah. Also, I feel like my didgeridoo feeling sound, now that you play the bassoon, I recall that what I'm really hearing maybe is just this, like, the idea that the instrument is wooden.
Oh, interesting.
And that's what I'm hearing. And that it's an instrument. If I'm not mistaken, the bassoon can actually I don't remember this. Can the bassoon do really, really good slides where you can like move between steps and hit every single little pitch gradient in them? That's kind of one of the things the bassoon can do.
Bassoons can slide pretty well. Not as easy as like violin, but they definitely can. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever experience that with violin, where the harmonics aren't the same?
Well, no, not
That
really.
just seems like it couldn't happen.
Well, I guess the difference is, or like a harmonic versus a multiphonic is,
I see.
so like a harmonic is more clear. Like there are overtones, but I think it's easier to hear like a fundamental or something. Like, okay, like a harmonic. Now I can go up the harmonic series. But to do a multiphonic on the violin, I think I'd have to like really crunch, use a lot of pressure to get it to scream in a certain way. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Multiphonics aren't like part of the standard fare, even for extended technique on the violin, but they are for woodwinds. Yeah, but I wouldn't consider the violin a monophonic instrument to begin with, though. Meaning, I can, like on a bassoon or like a wind instrument, you play one note at a time, whereas on the violin you can play like multiple. You can play 2 or 3 at a time. Anyway, lots of cool stuff that can happen.
Yeah, Auric Font brings up a good point that you can bow like a bass or cello hard enough. And that's a good point. Like comparing a violin to a bassoon is a little bit strange because they're very different in terms of their range that they, their range. The bassoon is more or less like a baritone instrument, and the
Yeah, and that was
violin is
another.
more or less like the lowest note on the violin is one of the higher notes, I feel like, on a bassoon. Um,
Um,
maybe, well,
yeah, I
that's also
guess what Arc Fonts is saying, or yeah, I guess that is in line when I was saying like you could crunch really low, I guess, but because a bass or cello is lower, the harmonics also you could probably hear more. You could also hear more overtones from the harmonics because the fundamental is going to be lower. You have more space. Okay. I feel like I feel like this might not make sense to everyone. A harmonic, okay, a fundamental note is just the note that you hear. La, that's the fundamental. La, but if you hear other notes kind of ghostly above that, you're probably hearing overtones. La, so let's say this is it. La. Um, this would be an overtone. It would be harmonic. The fundamental would still be this. There's like math that you do where it like you can see where all the overtones are going to happen mathematically. I should probably just pull up a picture. Harmonic chart. No,
series.
series. Yeah, harmonic series. Basically, it's like every half. Okay, violin string this length. If you cut the violin string exactly in half, you'll find a harmonic there. If you then cut that half into another half, you'll find harmonics at each of the quarters of the violin, and then you can do it like eighths. So like you even divisions. Okay, if there's any math people here, I get excited talking about harmonics. If there's any math people here, there is a like here's the infinite series the formula or whatever. Yeah, okay. Half, third, fourth, you'll find natural harmonics on a string instrument at least. And so anyway, if you start lower, then you'll have more that are audible within the human hearing range is the main point. Which also goes back to what Justin was telling us last week about, you can't hear what's higher than your maxed out human abilities. So that's why you can hear more of them from a cello or bass because they won't go too high too soon. Okay. Anyway, thanks Matthew for sending that for linking that. It reminds me of the emergency broadcasting system. Yeah, you know what? You're right. It does sound like that, Jeannie. I frequently hear like I don't know noises on the street, like emergency noises or various alerts or like even foghorns or like stuff like that, and I think it's a multiphonic. Is a harmonic an echo? No, it is not an echo. Yeah. Anyway, maybe I'll have better ways to explain this when it comes up next time.
I was
Okay.
hoping that the Slinky could provide some insight, but I'm not certain that I have gotten anything clear because they do like you can just like see the sound, what's going on, like a wave, like how a sound wave would work,
The Slinky is
and that's
actually
deeply
excellent
related.
for
Yeah,
sound
that's like
waves.
deeply related to how a harmonic works. Like again, I can actually hear like a low pitch of the Slinky. I don't think
What?
it could be picked up, but it's like I can't sing it. It's like one of those felt pitches, but you can see like an evenness in how they vibrate.
Uh-huh.
Like I can tell that there's something there, but I honestly don't know how to voice it or make it very obvious.
That's okay. Slinkies are actually really good for showing sound waves. But more likely compression waves are so like okay, so sound waves don't travel like sound waves aren't quite like the kind of waves that are in the ocean, like ocean waves.
Yeah, they're more
Sound
like,
waves are compression waves or longitudinal. Yeah, they're not like that. They're compression waves. So it's like imagine you have a slinky and
yeah,
you go like this, and then it kind of bounces back a little bit. That's how
yeah.
sound waves are. Yeah, and you
You
can
can
do
see it
it.
really well if you drop a big part of the slinky, you can see that wave happen. So like now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that was a pretty good one actually.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually hear the tap, 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 tap. There's like a beat to that. It's nice.
Yep. And it here.
Yeah.
Yep. And then it forms the compressions and the rarefactions. But if it were a different kind of wave, you would be calling it like what, peaks and valleys or something. I can't remember. Peaks and
Hmm.
like this.
Yeah, it'd be like ups and downs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Except in sound waves, it's compressions and rarefactions.
Yeah.
Anyway, sound synthesis is really interesting. Um, okay, Bad Batch.
Yep.
Um, oh yeah, we were just talking about the Tibetan monk sounding singing at the beginning.
Hmm.
Then we hear more noble clone. The stormtroopers and clone commandos arrive, and then we hear the do 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 again. And then let's see if it's time for another Justin example. I think it is. Okay, here we go. Nice. Little drum spotlight. He calls that one. Actually, does anyone know when that happens?
I don't have a specific guess.
It's at 1:48 when, let's see. Justin calls it, but now on D, we're getting serious. Again, totally not crosshair. Okay, there's another one from
Yeah.
Justin. Like a lot of the sound world from these two episodes is very similar, and it's all very industrial sounding and lots of synths. So this was a perfect one for Justin to prepare examples for. Here we go. And they all sound kind of the same. That was from 4 minutes in, and Justin calls it totally not crosshair. I follow my own orders. What do you think of that theme to begin with?
Da, 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 da,
Or its use, the use of it?
It's a naturally rhythmic theme, or a naturally. It's interesting. I don't necessarily like the word rhythm for that. I like maybe the word pulse would be better or something. It's a naturally driving pulse theme that it doesn't really come with like super creative rhythmic improvisation of, like, you can't, there's not much you can do with it in terms of making interesting rhythms, but it is really good for being like it's got that, now that I think about it, four to the floor feel.
Boom, boom, choo, choo. Okay, well, Jeannie is right. These are, I mean, yeah, I see. Okay, these sounds are all like what we heard when Crosshair would show up when he was on the Empire side. And yeah, so I think maybe the synth, I don't know, do you think maybe the synth is a through line? Because we weren't hearing the same theme, but we were definitely hearing that same type of synth and the kind of harsh sounding, I don't know, kind of, maybe it's associated more with the type of trooper that he was, like, so not necessarily Crosshair, but more like what he was doing. And now we're not really hearing that as much with Crosshair. Sort of an unrelenting hunter type of thing. Yeah. I think the
Unrelenting is a good
unrelenting.
word.
Yeah. Unrelenting. I feel a little bit, I like, I think it's a good bit of music. I do feel like the types of the ways I don't know how to, I don't know if this is a problem. I'm just observing that we don't hear very much thematic development in the show. And that's, I don't we don't necessarily hear a ton of it in the films either, but we hear a lot. But I think maybe the instrument palette is smaller. That's true. The instrument palette feels smaller in the show than like in films. Um, it also feels, maybe it feels smaller in all of the shows though. That might be true. I don't know.
Do you think that that reflects the way that, I mean, when I think of the Bad Batch, I think of it as an intimate family story, more or less. Whereas the movies, I would not consider to be an intimate family story. I would consider them to be like massive, heroic epics. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the film palette would, the instrument palette would be accordingly adjusted.
It also occurs to me that people might have the opposite view, actually, that I do, because they might, I could see an argument for both. Okay, I could see an argument for both ways, where I feel, to me, the sound palette feels bigger in, like, in the films than in the TV shows. But then again, the TV shows include stuff like the recorder in The Mandalorian and all these synths and kind of like we were thinking hurdy-gurdy last week and lots of interesting instruments that aren't used in the films necessarily. So there are more there are more there are instruments in the shows that don't appear in the movies. And I could see how it's like, oh, the movies are like mostly just orchestra. It's all not as much variety as the shows. So I could see an argument for that way too. And so it shows my bias of I'm not thinking just of instruments, like is there a violin or not? I'm thinking of the feeling of having a section and the feeling of having like a bigger ensemble or like different configurations of ensemble. Because when these interesting instruments show up in shows, it's usually solo over a pad of something else, you know? And again, I don't think it's bad. I think it is a budget thing and just a different means of production thing. Yes, Matthew. I always thought it was because the
Yeah.
TV shows have a smaller budget than the movies to spend on music. And yeah, I think yeah, that's definitely true.
Some of that, I think the way that you hear the budget difference maybe is in the, I mean, if you have a really big budget, then you can afford a studio with an orchestra in it, with a microphone in that studio, a microphone with 100 microphones in that studio, and you can you can hear the space. You can hear that harmonic series. You actually hear all of those many more notes that create a rich, vibrant, huge a huge acoustic color scheme. Maybe that creates a difference. Whereas for sure, there's not a budget for that for the shows, and so yeah, and so there's more of a diversification of actual instruments in terms of synth usage.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think, okay, even if they had the budget to record a live orchestra, it's not guaranteed that they would write something that makes use of the full orchestra in a varied way that knows how to make use of it. And then on the other side of things, because they do have the power of like synths, computers, sample libraries, etc. Theoretically, they could with synth orchestras, not necessarily real, but they could theoretically use the same. They could theoretically make it bigger, use more of an orchestra, even if it's a faux orchestra. They could do that, but then it might not sound as good and be worth it on the tools. I think it's actually fine, especially for animated shows. I think it kind of goes well. I've learned to associate the animated shows with like synthesized instruments. And for live action shows, I think maybe it's more disappointing. Maybe. I'm going to sit with that.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to ponder over time.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. More notes. Let's see. Oh yeah, how do you like the banter that Crosshair and Omega have?
I'm much worse.
Yeah, that's my favorite line. I'm much worse.
Crosshair makes a joke successfully.
Okay, one more example from Justin. It's a little different.
Slight variation there.
It didn't go up to the top note. Do, 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 do. Do you know where that's from? I'm going back to Ender's word persistent. Because this guy keeps living. Justin calls it.
You can't kill a shadow.
Yeah, totally not Crosshair, still lives again. He can't die.
Is it when he survives the waterfall?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me
Crawls
of
up
the
out of the bottom.
Did you ever go to like camp or something where you sang, I associate this with camp, the Cat Came Back song?
I don't know the Cat Came Back song. Can you sing it for us?
Yeah. I don't remember the verses, but the chorus goes like, the verses say something about like how, sorry Ziggy, don't listen to this. The verses detail like how the people have tried to have killed this cat. They've like drowned it. They've like done all this kind of thing. And then it goes, but the cat came back the very next day. Oh, the cat came back. They thought he was a goner, but the cat came back. He just couldn't stay away. No, no, no. Okay. I hope someone in chat knows that. But anyway,
the point is like
you have heard it. Okay. The point is this song.
But in the context of like the Sandman kind of music, where it's like, Mr. Sandman, give me a dream. Like, and it's like three vocalists who are all singing in like tight harmony.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Gary, yes. Gary knows.
Oh.
Okay, good. And Gary, where did you learn this song? Was it at camp or something? Maybe the version we sang in school
School.
was a bit different. Oh, cat came back. He just couldn't stay away. He was sitting on the porch. Oh, that's probably. I mean, that's probably how the Masked
Mm.
Jedi sang that at camp. Here we go. Okay, good. It's not just me.
Oh, there's a meow 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 part.
Apparently.
That's cool.
Hmm.
I want to hear this. I think this has some potential.
Yeah, me too. I've never heard this recording. We didn't. I don't think we did a meow 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 song portion at camp, but I sang that at camp about 100 years ago. That's a long time ago. The Masked Jedi. Glad this song has persisted, and that the song was probably not in existence 100 years ago. Yeah, camp
I
songs.
wonder if, well,
You wonder what?
I've been thinking a lot about the origins of jazz music and then also metaphors in jazz music, and I could see there being kind of a darker, more serious metaphor there of old Mr. Johnson. He had this cat that he couldn't get rid of, and he didn't like it, and he kept trying to get rid of it. The cat came back. Kind of
Mm,
a low key persist.
mm,
Ah, back to that word persist.
mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
um, theme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the theme
It's
really
possible, but I don't know.
personifies.
So
The theme seems to personify those annoying shadow troopers. I'm just like, can't shake them off. Kind of annoying. Um, let's see. Any other any other thoughts? Oh, Ender pointed this out, not me. Um, Wilhelm scream. Did you hear that, Christina?
oh yeah, yep.
Yep.
hmm There's the home scream at got it right there at 13:23.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
If you, I'll go back very slightly before that because I really liked that whole sequence leading up to the waterfall scene, which was a little different from the waterfall scene. But I like at 11:45 in the cellos and the basses, we kind of start that the theme, the like I called it the rhythmic steps theme.
Okay.
Like the
Like
idea is
starting
it's just
11:45.
go it like the idea is that it steps and they're rhythmic and
You mean at 11:40?
probably so. I feel like all of my cues are a little late, maybe partially because the Disney Plus player's nature.
I heard the Brother Crosshair theme like around 11:11. Is that what you're the string or the violins?
Yeah, I think you can actually hear it a little before that. I guess at 11, I heard it, I thought, at 11:45 starting out in the low register.
Ah, okay.
And then
Yeah.
the violins take over.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I liked that. What are the
And
notes?
then at like 11:50 we get like a piano drum thing. Do 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 do. And then we get a nice like ooh,
New.
straight tones. Oh.
Where's that?
At 12:15ish.
Okay.
Right before right before we hear quite a lot uh of Batcher
Oh, the Badger.
sounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of the sounds are harder to hear because Batcher gets a lot of there's a Batcher is really high in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Uh yeah, you can hear Batcher eating, making sounds. It's cute. I'm not complaining. But
So you basically you liked that whole stretch.
yeah, I like this stretch. And then at 12:33 there's a really nice like slide down from a trombone maybe. That one wasn't as easy to hear. I'll
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
not harbor that point.
But here we do have like string action music for sure,
Hmm.
which
Yeah,
is
there's some
like
nice string action music.
it's again it's those double eighth notes where each eighth note is really doubled, so it's 16th notes, but
That's
it's always two 16th notes on the same note. So it's like type of thing. One, one, two, one, two, one, two, one, two, one, two, one, two, etc. The Dugga
hmm.
Duggas.
And I feel like this whole section is basically crafted by trading the orchestra trading off two things. It's either trading off those doubled eighth notes
Mm-hmm.
or just like long ominous held tones that don't have a lot of vibrato, just a lot of oh, not a lot of ah, like it's oh kind
Yeah.
of
So the very
vibe.
straight tone. Yeah. And I wonder if that's because of the synth.
I think it's easier with the synth, but it's beautiful. When I was listening to Arvo Pärt yesterday, and a lot of times when musicians perform Arvo Pärt, they just do such a beautiful job of straight tone
Yeah, it's really
performing.
hard.
It's gorgeous. Um,
It's really hard.
yeah, and yeah, and I remember just being like, wow, these are great players. And by when I say I'm listening to Arvo Pärt, I mean I'm listening to the composer Arvo Pärt, who is spelled like the word part, but with
Mm-hmm.
an A, two dots over the A, Arvo Pärt. And I was listening to Tasmin Little's string ensemble, uh, playing two pieces. I love his fratres, which means
Mm-hmm.
brothers, and his Spiegel in Spiegel,
Mm-hmm.
which is I think like mirror
Mirror.
in mirror.
Uh-huh.
And then I love the Ode to Benjamin Britten.
Yes. And I also love Benjamin Britten. I like had a video. I did like a live stream playing Spiegel with someone
Ah,
several years ago, and all like Facebook and Instagram and all the whatever the social media platforms, they all took it down immediately because they copyright striked it, thinking it was a recording by I don't know, Universal Music Group's bots picked it
yeah,
up. And I tried to dispute it because it was a live, I was like, clearly it's a live performance.
played it too well.
No, like if a human just checked this really quick, all the troubles you would see that it's not that. Anyway,
That might be part of the issue, or straight tones was probably easier to happen with that kind of music.
maybe. I wasn't playing exactly
Maybe.
straight tones, neither was the recording though. I think what it is I think it probably was the piano part might be easy. See you, Gary. I think maybe I don't but then
Hmm.
again,
Oh, bye, Gary.
there is a problem with like live classical music performances. I'm far from the only person it's happened to. It happens to a lot of people that play like that post like classical music performances. Very annoying. Anyway, do you have anything else to say about 307 or does anyone else?
I want to continue on. I really just like that part
The
leading up to
waterfall?
the.
I'm just
So, yeah, yeah, exactly. We so the orchestra's trading off between those long held notes, and then there's an interesting moment where, like, right at so at 13:10, there's an actual break from all the drama for just a quick second, like, which sets up the the big drop that comes after, and then the how to write this? I wish my handwriting was far superior to what it is. Uh, oh yeah, so that first pause happens when we first see the waterfall. So it's nice. We're getting a kind of storyboarding cohesion with the soundtrack, and then the strings keep the spirit of that step motif, like bada 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 bada, but they just like walk all the way up. They just want is what they end up doing. And I thought that was very successful,
I thought so too. Yeah.
especially with the Wilhelm scream just like right before that descent. It was comic timing. It was good.
the
Uh,
descent that the strings do after they go, I don't know what the notes are, but they're like, whatever it is. And then they're like, you're talking about that? I feel like
mhm.
it's either doubled with some other synth or it sounds interesting. It sounds like not just one thing. Like if this were a live orchestra, you could do that with just a straight up glissando. You could also go like with notes. You could also layer it so that there are different groups of string players starting on different notes, so it's kind of more of a double. And it sounded like neither of those solely. It was something, but it was also mixed really low. So like when the soundtrack comes out, we're gonna hear it much better if it's on there.
Totally.
But either way, it was
That was a
really
really good
cool.
part.
Yeah.
And then right after that, I really liked there were a lot of kind of nice, there were a lot of nice kind of flute tones in that 1330 segment with,
Yeah, like the little kind of spiky.
mm-hmm. And there's just kind of like the strings are just kind of very quietly going,
And then we have the
and I felt
persistent,
like
like
that mixed nicely.
like in the
Hmm.
drums bass.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, and then there was they also made a point to kind of like blend the sizzle and crash of a cymbal into those flute notes, and I thought it was cool that the flute slash almost sometimes shakuhachi sounding winds there and that creepy violin could blend so nicely with the cymbal.
Hmm.
I thought that was nice.
Lots of brass, lots of yeah. I keep like trying to anticipate what's going to happen in the episode with the thumbnail, and I keep missing the mark. Like last stream, I did the thumbnail had Nala Say on it, and Nala Say was not in the episode. This stream, I just took a stab at it, and I put Asajj Ventress on the thumbnail. Nope, nope. So maybe I'll change that.
What do you think of what do you think of the sound of the water itself? I
Hmm.
always find recordings of water interesting because they're so difficult to. I think that it's really difficult to have a good water sound.
I liked the water sound. I'm trying to remember. Let me see my notes. Well, what did you think about it?
I thought it was pretty good, actually. I guess, and I mean the sound design of the water, really.
Like the gurgling was good. The like.
Yeah, it has enough low tones. It wasn't just a shh.
Well, yeah, because there was a lot going on in the waterfall. It was not just a waterfall, and that's it. That said, like, I didn't listen to the episode on like good speakers. I watched it on my TV, my like Apple TV. As I'm listening,
Yeah, I
like,
listened to it in headphones.
okay, visually, I guess one litmus test is just to check whether what you're seeing visually, like whether what you're hearing seems to match up with what you're seeing for you to
Yeah,
get it.
I just got to a moment. So like at 1450 or so, that's I can hear the waterfall nicely, and I realized what I like about it is that the double basses are droning a really low, quiet pitch as a part, I think, of almost like the
Oh,
waterfall sound design, and that makes it feel a little warmer and richer and less just like we've got this chaotic water sound now. Like I think that's
interesting.
quite nice.
Well, so the pressure, there wasn't as much pressure for the sound design to be just completely realistic on its own.
Yeah.
The sound abruptly changes when we change to the waterfall, I'm realizing, on its own. Like it almost feels like I feel like a pressure on my face. Like when you're really next to water, and it's actually, when you're up really close to a waterfall, it's actually much more violent and pounding sounding than you would think from afar.
You've been close to a waterfall?
Close enough to experience like how actually intense it is, like how it thumps on my head.
Yeah, I guess it is. Just like massive billions of tons of heavy stuff falling really
Yeah.
fast. So, yeah.
Like I imagine zooming
I have
progressively
two, but I
in.
don't remember that.
I imagine going progressively closer to a waterfall and like it's sounding like, I don't know, relax, like from afar, it sounds relaxing and stuff. And getting closer and closer and feeling how actually
I'm scared.
scary it is when you're really close. Also, I have a water phobia, so maybe that
That's what
has
I
to
was
do with
gonna say. I was like,
it.
you have been really close to a
Oh,
waterfall.
you meant specifically me. Yeah.
Yes. Um,
Christina, maybe you
I
would like
almost
it.
fell in.
You almost fell in.
I stood at the top of the Victoria Falls, which is one of the biggest waterfalls in the world, and I almost fell in because I was really tall, and so it was at the back of our group photo, and it was really slippery, and I did
Oh,
almost
no.
fall in. But I don't remember it being. Yeah, it's interesting, but the waterfall is so tall that it rains upward, so you don't even feel that pressure. You feel just like a
Oh, I don't
kind
remember.
of
I
thing
haven't been at the
there.
top of
That
falls.
particular waterfall.
Hmm. That sounds very
The
scary.
Niagara ones are interesting because they're like kind of a circle, and
Oh,
I hear you can like go into the caves in the waterfalls and like and you can take a boat down at the bottom. Not that I act like this is terrible. I even find that to be scary.
yeah. Niagara Falls actually
Yeah.
seems terrifying to me. Legitimately
Yeah, that looks awful.
looks really scary. Anyway, I'm going to try not to think
Those are all
about
of my
water now.
notes.
What was that?
Those are all of my notes.
Yeah, that's all of my notes. I think we can wrap up and be excited for next week when I feel like next week will be lots of good talking. And I like talky. I like heavy talking episodes where there's not too much
This
shooting.
was a stressful episode plot wise. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of us knowing that scary people are coming, but them just like not realizing it. And that
Mm-hmm.
is always really hard for me to handle when the anxiety of knowing that something bad is going to happen and the character doesn't know that something bad is going to happen.
Right. Yeah, I think that, yeah, because you know, in many ways, like, look, these were my least favorite episodes of the season so far. These two.
Mm.
I get why perhaps they had to happen. I think they could have been one. I think it could have been one episode, but I don't know. Either way, it was all in 1 week, so that's okay. Yeah. So next week we'll be talking about episode 308, which I think Asajj Ventress will be in. Maybe. I actually don't think so. But we'll see what thumbnail I get wrong next week. Should be fun. All right.
So yes, we're going to.
I'll play Justin's music on the exit actually.
Nice.
Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us. And we'll see you next week, same time. Bye.